Yo, it's your boy Jacoby. So Marcus, are you ready for the crown? When you see the crown, you know what's going down.
Who the best? Yo, listen.
Yeah, what's good, Cal? I'm here. Just a quick note, when I recorded this footage, I was quite sick, so I was coughing up quite a bit and stuttering. I did try to cut most of it out. However, you need to know it's 2 hours of raw footage, so I'm probably going to miss some. That being said, enjoy, and hopefully you learn something. Alright, what's good, fam? So today I will be doing a full mechanics guide on this character. Again, I will not be teaching you how to play this character. There are plenty of guys that tell you how to play this character, fam. And in all honesty, his kit is very self-explanatory. He's a die brawl hybrid. So just watch your favorite streamer. Examples include bad GD players, Zoltaic, Monster, and mimic their playstyle. And when you get good, eventually you should be able to develop your own playstyle a lot. Okay, starting off with his kit. If we press F1 here, it'll explain all his abilities. Now to start off with, we have his heavy blow, aka his primary attack. Now this does 40 damage a piece and it fires pretty quickly. It has like a bit of a limited range, I believe 5 meters. This can also do splash damage, so to maximize damage. So ideally you want to be like around two group depth enemies. Like for example, let's see this out here and there's like a Doctor Strange. You want to like damage them both to maximize damage. You're like doing 80 damage a piece. And that also helps you get alt charge a lot quicker. Just like other melees, it can damage through shields such as Strange and Magneto and Inviswoman. However, do not be surprised if your primary does not damage through other shield characters like Cap and Angela. Their shield generally blocks other melee attacks. I won't lie though, fam, his primary is like Loki dog shit. I think he would definitely benefit from percent damage on top of his 40 damage, but you know, what do I know? I haven't been playing this character for like 3 entire seasons, but it's whatever. Going on to his next ability, it's his clap, or more commonly known as the Gamma Burst. So it does 70 damage and it has a 6-second cooldown, if you can see on the bottom right. And this can actually pierce through enemies. So I'm gonna show you right here with these 3 Hulks all lined up perfectly for me. So I'm gonna press my alternate fire right here. And as you can see, it damages all 3 of them. Another thing you want to know about this clap is that this can actually reduce the cooldown of your shield, which if you look at the bottom right is your shift. Based on the number of people it pierces, it will reduce the cooldown by 1 second. So in this example, since there's 3 people, if I was to clap and pierce all 3 of them, it will reduce the cooldown by about 3 seconds. This can max out at about 6 seconds because there are 6 enemies on the opposing team when you play. That's kind of obvious, a lot. Okay, now you can also snipe and poke people with this clap. It's super underrated, so don't be scared to like poke people with this clap, and super good for finishing up kills that you need to clean up with that are a bit too far away from your primary. Okay, and speaking of his bubble, that's his next ability. This bubble, or more notably known as the Indestructible guard, it blocks damage and CC, and it also shields your team if they're within 5 meters of you. So for your shield in particular, it can only block 200 damage, but for your allies, it has 100 damage. And both shields last 2.5 seconds. Now with this shield in particular, this is really good for farming your ult because based on the number of damage you take, it will directly convert into alt charge. And this is on a 10-second cooldown, as you can see on the bottom right, but as I already showed you earlier, you can reduce the cooldown based on the number of people you pierce with your clap. So generally speaking, you should be using your shield first, then your clap after, so you can minimize the cooldown. Now I want to talk about a common mistake that a lot of new Hulk players do with his shield. They always use it to block damage when they're like super low or exiting out of the dive. However, you're gonna notice when you get into higher elos, a lot of the times the people just chain CC and you're gonna be perma-dead before you even get to throw one primary attack. So that being said, you should be using your shield to block their CC. Let's say they have a Luna Snow, which is an ideal matchup for a Hulk player. let's assume the Luna Snow is right here. You can just jump right in front of their face, make it super obvious that you want to get CC'd, predict the shield, block the CC, and you can commit to the dive even more. Going up into his next abilities, we have his Exile, or more commonly known as his Radioactive Lockdown. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a CC. Shocking. Now, nobody on your team can damage him in this phase, or the enemy team can't free him from this phase, even if they have another Hulk. Now, this stun lasts 2 seconds, it does 5 damage, and has a 15-second cooldown. So yes, you can actually kill with your Exile. You can reduce how long they stay in the Exile state if you use your clap or your primary. So let me show you right here. They're Exile. I clap them, they're out of that state. Because here's me doing this with his primary, as you can see. Now, another thing with the CC is that you can also see 9 people off point. So let's say you're like 1 meter away from capping point and there's just 1 person left alive. You can just shoot your Exile, and since the Exile pretty much like takes them out of the game. Okay, yeah, so what's up? So there are quite a few uses with his Exile. So notably, you can cancel ultimates with his Exile, considering it's a CC and all CCs can negate certain ultimates. So notably, I have examples of Doctor Strange and Spider-Man here, but they're not limited to those 2 characters. Other examples include Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, and Emma Frost. Another use of his Exile is to exile people out the map. Someone is like off map, you can just press E and they will drop into the void and die. This is really good against like super buff tanks. Like I remember I did it against a Doctor Strange or a Rogue who was like trying to escape me and it just instantly kills them. Okay, going up to his next ability, and arguably the most mechanically demanding ability on base Hulk, it's his Incredible Leap, or what I like to call his Leap Drag. So this is pretty much your jump, as you can see from the meter on the right. If you charge a jump below the red, you're only going to do a small hop like this. However, if you charge it past the red, you're going to do a big leap like this. Now, here's the thing. The description is actually kind of lying. It says this allows Hero Hulk to knock down flying enemies. This honestly applies to anyone who's in the air. So if an Emma Frost is in the air, you can actually knock him down. So this doesn't exclusively apply to enemies. Okay, as you can see, we have some flyers here. Now, you want to charge your jump at least halfway through, leap right at them, and then you can tackle them. Remember, your leap does no damage whatsoever, so you can like chain this as long as you want. Another thing I want to talk to you about with this leap drag is that you can actually lift people up with your leap drag to take them to elevated positions. Okay, what's up? So I felt like the best way to explain visually and intuitively how Hulk's leap drag work is through a tool known as Desmos. It's a mathematical graphing tool, and I'm not gonna lie fam, if you haven't used this while you were in high school, either 1, you're a boomer, or 2, you didn't do too well in math, because this is arguably the best software you could use. That being said fam, I'm gonna try to help you visualize how Hulk's leap drag works. Okay, that being said, we all know Hulk's leap drag exhibits a parabolic path, right? Specifically a concave down parabola, so something along the lines like this. We move right here, this is how the parabola looks like. However, I'm gonna adjust this parabola so that it's on this end of the axis, both on the positive X and Y axis, and also I don't want the Y axis to be intercepting with the parabola, so there will be less visual clutter, so you can kind of visualize it a lot better. Right, so we're gonna quickly screw around with this function. Yeah, this would be the best way I would graph Hulk's default leap jump. Let's assume that he fully charges it and he looks directly straight. This is the max jump path. Okay, so there are 2 conditions fam in order for you to CC someone with this leap drag. Number 1, you have at least half a second to a second of flight time after you jump. And the second condition is you have bare minimum a third, ideally half of your jump charged. That is ideally what you want to occur in order to leap drag someone. So I'm gonna go draw over here. In the blue, I would say this would be about a second of flight time. If you can get past this mark, I would say it's about half a second to a second of flight time. That being said, if you can leap drag anyone from here, here, or here, right? If you hit anyone with your leap drag at any of these 3 arbitrary points, you will CC them. Another thing I want you to know about Hulk's leap drag fam is that when you drag someone at any point, you will continue the parabolic path. So let's take this point over here, right? if you CC someone over here, you're gonna continue this path all the way till you hit the ground. And remember, the x-axis is the ground. So the same idea for this point over here. Let me do a different color. So if we get this point and you leap drag someone here, you're gonna continue the path all the way down. Same thing with like the max over here, right? If you leap drag someone there, you're gonna do it all the way down. Even something as minute as this point over here, you're still gonna CC them all the way back to the ground. I know like I'm kind of like stretching it, but fam, I won't lie, the leap drag is truly the most difficult mechanic on this character. It's more difficult than his ultimate. Like the leap drag, easily the most I'd argue it's the top 3 most difficult abilities to master in the game, fam. That being said, I want to bring up one more point. It doesn't matter like how much you vertically compress it, as long as you have airtime, like past that minimum threshold airtime and have at least a third to half your jump charge, you're gonna CC someone. So let's vertically compress this function right here. Let's do a factor of 2. Notice how the function is compressed. Now ideally when this happens, you should be jumping higher. So let's just say he jumps to about, oh my god, let's say he jumps to about 16, right? This is normally what happens. So naturally speaking, if you proceed to compress the function more and more, Hulk should be able to reach a higher maximum value. So let's do something kind of crazy like 1,000. This almost looks like a vertical line. And again, like his max value, it's not gonna be some sort of crazy multiple. It's gonna be like at max like 25 units. Like it's nothing too crazy, right? Now this pretty much looks like a vertical line. Like, if you look around right here, it looks like a vertical line from like this perspective. However, it isn't. And you can pretty much like jump up and down from the exact same position as Hulk. And if you can still like hit someone while you meet the requirement, right? A third to half his jump charge and at least half a second to a second of airtime, you will CC someone. So again, it doesn't matter how diabolical this function is. It doesn't matter how high up in the air Hulk is. It doesn't matter how far Hulk is jumping. As long as you meet those 2 requirements, 9 out of 10 times, fam, you're gonna CC them. So again, hopefully you like intuitively grasp the concept of like how his leap drag works, and like just make it make sense, you know? Like it should make sense to you. I'm gonna throw up, fam. I sound like my physics teacher. If you're in a situation where there's like a super high flyer that you can't reach, what you can do is CC them, jump to them, hit your primary, and as you hit your primary, you're gonna leap drag them at that exact moment. That moment will be like so incredibly short, they won't even have a chance to escape them. So you're pretty much performing 2 CCs in a row. This is like super hard to do. Now, another thing with this leap drag is that if you're near a wall like right here, you can jump and then press jump again, and you can like grab on the wall. You can charge it again, and you can chain this like as many times as you want. Like again, I'm gonna show you like a nice exercise that you can do to improve your leap drag control. So pretty much what you want to do is you want to like either one, if you're a good enough Hulk player, you can set this up with like Monster Hulk, or 2, considering you're most likely someone trying to learn Hulk, you should be using Inviswoman. And what you want to do is you want to essentially push Groot. You want to be in this area of the map, and you want to push, like, let's say a Groot, for example, into the jump pad. Now you want to push the Groot in the jump pad where they're bouncing up and down continuously. They're not leaving the jump pad. So as the Groot is jumping up and down the jump pad, you want to switch back to regular Hulk. And what you want to do is you want to leap drag the Groot mid-air. And as you leap drag the Groot mid-air, you want to place them back on the jump pad, but you shouldn't be on the jump pad. Do you kind of see what I'm trying to say here? Now, again, you also don't want the Groot to be out the jump pad, because you won't be able to chain your leap drags. You want to make sure he's on the jump pad and you're out the jump pad. Think of it this way, right? If you hit the jump pad with the Groot, you both are going to fall into the void. If you were to drag the Groot and not hit the jump pad, you don't drop him into the void. And if you practice this enough, you can eventually hit clips like the one I hit over here, which again, it requires good leap drag control. So again, I really encourage you, see if you can like consistently do this for like 10 minutes straight. And I think you'll be like pretty good with your like leap drags. And also you need to understand his leap drag is also considered a form of CC, so you can CC people out of their ultimates. I believe I did this with like a Psylocke, a Spider-Man, and the list goes on. Right, I'll show the clips as like I'm explaining this. I'll also play the clips. One more thing too is that you can also block projectile ultimates. So most notably I have here is like Phoenix and Magneto. I'm pretty sure I have like a clip of me rocking a Phoenix up with my Rocket Pop belt. But that's pretty much like all of his abilities. Now, before we continue, you need to quickly go into your settings over here, and you want to go to keyboard, change it here to Bruce Banner. You're gonna scroll all the way down. For Bruce Banner, for Hulk, and for Monster Hulk, make sure you have your jump binded to scroll wheel down or scroll wheel up. Either or works, just whatever's your preference. Pretty much, there's two ways you can Bhop. One is on regular Hulk, and one is on Monster Hulk. So I'm gonna show you on Monster Hulk first because this is the easiest one to do. So what you want to do is you want to charge your past the red meter at least halfway through minimum to hit it consistently. And what you want to do is as you jump, before you become flat-footed, you're gonna spam scroll wheel. Actually, that's a lie. Now you don't want to spam scroll wheel. You want to time your scroll wheel. Just every time before he becomes like flat-footed, as you saw at the bottom, you want to hit your scroll wheel. Just before, as his tippy toes are hitting the ground, you want to hit scroll wheel. So one thing that happens is when you hit it flat-footed, is that the Bhop doesn't trigger. You see, like he becomes flat-footed, the timing is too late, and he becomes, I can't just hit the Bhop. But fortunately on Monster Hulk, it's super duper forgiving. And a lot of the times, even when you're like super duper late on the timing, as long as it's not like completely flat-footed, going on with regular Hulk Bhop. So again, make sure it's past the red meter. The more you charge it, the angle you hit it, all these factors will determine how much momentum you get. But pretty much what you want to do is you want to find a wall, right? You want to jump onto the wall and you want to flip your screen so it cancels your wall grab like I showed you earlier. And what this does is that you carry your momentum from what would happen if you wall grab, and then you just hit subsequent jumps. A common mistake that I see people talk about when they describe how to Bhop and like some other guys is you just spam scroll wheel. I noticed that if I just spam scroll wheel, like it's gonna be super duper hard to hit consistently. It's a lot harder than it should be. If you just time your scroll wheel jumps just before he becomes flat-footed, it's gonna be a bit easier to hit. And I'm gonna show you how you should practice it. You wanna first practice charging your jump and hitting this wall and hit this grab. That's step one. Pretty easy, right? Now here where it gets a bit harder. This isn't the hardest part about it. This is just, I would think this is the second hardest part about it. You wanna do this and you wanna flick your way from that wall. Like so. And keep practicing it until you become consistent. Now this is where, now the next part is easily the hardest part. If you never Bhopped in your life and this is your first time attempting a Bhop, this is most definitely the hardest part. So what you do next is same idea. You want to time your jumps before he becomes flat-footed. You charge your jump, flick away from the screen, and then just hit the Bhop. As you can see, the one I did there was really bad because I timed it poorly and I didn't carry my momentum fuck. So right here, notice how I'm timing my scroll wheel just before he becomes flat-footed. And again, good practice is like, of course, practice this in like your comp matches, your practice games for rollouts. That's really good. Also in the range too, just practice it with like a variety of like walls and surfaces. Because again, you can do the Bhop with like pretty much any wall. As long as you can like grab onto it, you can like just animation cancel it and go carry your momentum into jumps. But yeah, that's pretty much how you do the bunny hop. Okay, going on to Monster Hulk. This is gonna be a pain in the ass to explain. However, this is probably the most anticipated part of the guide. So Monster Hulk down here, it pretty much is the exact same kit as regular Hulk. However, he does more damage and he is a bigger target. Right now, his primary does 70 damage and it can knock back enemies. So if you see it right here, does 70 damage and it performs knockback like so. His clap also does 125 damage, but if you look at the bottom right, it has a 1 second cooldown, so you can hit it quite often. And his Exile is the exact same, but it has a 5 second cooldown. It also is a lot easier to hit people with your leap drag in Monster Hulk because his body is bigger. And also with the new buffs, he is now immune to knockback and launch up, so essentially things passive. But he can still get CC'd by stuff like Luna Snowball or Bucky's Hook. However, compared to Bucky's Hook, it just CCs him. It doesn't displace him. Okay, going over to his Monster Hulk form, in his Q, right, there's a new ability. If you press Q again, it does an animation, this animation you see right here, and it deals about 200 damage. Now, this can't kill squishies whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the only person this can kill is Bruce Banner. Now, I'm gonna go on that bed if I rant here, fam. I never want to see you guys use this when you still have time in your ultimate. Never. Now, here's the thing. You can still get damage in this form with this ultimate, but that being said, I should never, ever any of you miskins in my lobbies, use this when you still have time in your ultimate. And the reason why is because I'm gonna press Q again. Now just watch. This timer is gonna run down all the way down to 1 second. I'm gonna press Q again right at the end. And as you can see, it still does the animation. Now I'm gonna press Q again, and then I'm gonna press Q right now. Look, it's going through his ultimate. You're missing out crucial time on your ultimate just to do 200 damage. When you can literally do 200 damage just like that. That quickly. You do more than 200 damage. You do 265 damage with just that one play. It takes less than 2 seconds. But fam, like, bro, you shouldn't, like, realistically, like, you have to be an idiot to, like, press Q when you still have time in your ultimate, fam. Like, come on, use your brain. Like, if you think you are that incompetent with this character, if you genuinely think you're that incompetent for this character, I will teach you a playstyle, right? Out of the 3 playstyles I know in his Monster Hulk form, I'll teach you a playstyle that you can play in his ultimate that will literally help solve that issue. Like, fam, like, the amount of times, like, I just see Hulk players, like, press this Q prematurely and just waste crucial time and then just proceed to get absolutely murked by the enemy team, fam. Like, bro, like, I'm actually gonna crash out if I ever see that shit ever again. In the event, like, let's assume, like, in the past, then the more team up, you have to play Hulk so you can enable your team. And as we know, next season, the devs did tease there to be a new Doctor Strange team up returning, so we do believe the Gamma team up with Doctor Strange will be returning. But speaking of the playstyle, there are 3 playstyles you could use his ultimate form. And number 1 is mechanical clip farming. This is the one I do. It's pretty much like getting as many juggles, maybe try weaving in a bunny hop, and get kills. A lot of the times this results in 1 or 2 kills, never really multiple kills. And speaking of multiple kills, that's the next way to use his ultimate. This is particularly good when you're trying to walk someone down or clean up. You can get multi-kills with this character. And since he does a lot of damage, it's pretty easy to melt tanks in his ult and kill squishies super duper quickly. And here is the third way to use his ult, for spacing. So this is really important if you are a horrible Hulk player, and let's assume there's a broken team up that you need to be playing Hulk with. Here's what you should do. Assume all 3 of these Hulk are like the enemy team. You're gonna press Q right here, and all you're gonna do is spam your primary, get pocketed by your healers, and move them away. That's all you have to do. Maybe like weave in a clap in there, spam your clap, right? But move them away. This is called a spacing ultimate. Like, this is super easy to do, and this is really helpful if you like have no control over this guy's kit, no control over his jump. You should be doing this instead of pressing Q immediately. Like, just do this. Press, again, weave in your clap, maybe CC someone out. Right, this is called spacing. Just move people out of the way, try to C9 them off point. This is a super easy way to use his ultimate, and this is a lot more effective than just pressing Q immediately when you get into his ultimate. Never do that, please. Okay, so there's a few animation cancels that you could do on this character. So the first animation cancel that you can do is you could do a primary into a clap like so. It just cancels the clap animation. Another animation cancel you can do is a primary into an E, like so. And here's another animation cancel you can do. You can press, what you could do is you could do a primary into a Q, like so. And this is really good because you'll be able to do 270 damage and actually kill squishies with this, assuming they don't get healed. Another animation cancel you can do is a clap into a Q. That's something you can do. Well, one other thing you can do is a combination of the both. You can just do a clap animation cancel and press Q again. This does the most amount of damage. It is about 395 damage if I'm not mistaken, so it's able to kill most characters that aren't a tank. I would say always do that whenever you always try to like weave in an animation cancel before you Q so you can maximize damage. Doesn't matter which it is, it will be able to bare minimum kill a 250 easily. Okay, now here is the most awaited part of this video too. It is how to juggle on this character. Now there are multiple juggles, multiple scenarios you can use for juggling. I'm going to be teaching you the 2 core juggles, right? The first one I would strongly disadvise you to use unless in 3 specific scenarios that I have listed. The second one is the one you should be doing most of the time. And within the second one, there are variations you can do. So again, let's get started. Okay, starting with juggle number 1. So this is the most well-known juggle. I see this in a lot of Instagram clips, YouTube clips, and I'm not gonna lie fam, this is my least favorite juggle too, and I hate whenever I see it. So pretty much what this juggle is that you do 2 primary attacks and then you jump into the guy that's in the air to perform this juggle. And quick tip is you don't want to be stationary when you perform this juggle. You want to walk as you're hitting your primary attacks, or else you won't hit your secondary primary. So let me show you this right now. So 1, 2, jump. I'm gonna chain this again. 1, 2, jump. Notice how I'm walking, right? If you're not walking, it's gonna be a lot harder to hit. And I'm gonna show you this. So right here, I'm not gonna walk. I'm just gonna hit my primary. Notice how it didn't hit whatsoever. And even if you do hit, it'll be like super duper inconsistent. Like that. Make sure you walk into the person so it hits a bit more consistently. Now, while you're in this juggle, I'm gonna show you this again. While you're in this juggle, you can like weave in primary attacks. You can also weave in a clap too. Like so. You can just do those things. This is pretty much like common within all juggles. Right? Now again, I do not recommend you perform this in ranked at all. Avoid this in ranked at all costs. Now the simple reason why is because it's very easy to maneuver out of. Let's take someone like Moon Knight. Moon Knight is quite easy to juggle. However, if you do this juggle, he can just jump out of your juggle quite easily, right? He can also like zipline out of this juggle. Let's take someone like Rocket. Rocket can easily dash out of it. Let's take someone like Doctor Strange, who is in theory really easy to juggle. What he can do, since like the juggle is like so obvious, he can just fly out of it, right? This won't work on intelligent players. This would only work on like characters who have nothing to deal with it. Like for example, let's take Groot. Let's say you break his iron wall. Like I mean, it's pretty free to hit it on a Groot, but like honestly speaking, like how many times in ranked are you just gonna get like a free juggle on the Groot, right? Like you're either gonna get stunned or CC. So just be intelligent. You have to also be quick with your juggle. Now, however, there are 3 scenarios that you could use this juggle in. So primarily I have moving someone to an elevated ground. I'm going to be playing a clip right here where let's say I want to move someone to an elevated surface. I should be performing this juggle because there's more space for me to jump in. If I was to do the next juggle I taught you, there won't be enough space to like jump to, and I won't be able to hit it or transport him myself and the enemy to the elevated surface. So make sure that's like one scenario. And another scenario where you should be using this is juggling someone who's pinned to a wall. Again, I'm going to teach you how to juggle someone who's pinned to a wall later in the video. And also another example you should be using this, and I'm going to show you this right now, is when you're freestyling. Like for example, what if you want to hit a 360 like so, right? Whether you want to just disrespect your opponent, like that's the only time you should be going on to juggle number 2. Now this is the best and most consistent way to juggle. Most high rank Hulks juggle this way. And so pretty much what this works is you just primary, jump, primary. Your second primary as you jump knocks him into your juggle, and that's essentially the science behind it. Now, like the other juggle I told you about, you can also weave in a clap or another primary into this. So I'm gonna show you this right now. So jump. So primary, jump, primary, primary, jump, primary, primary, jump, primary, and he's dead. Pretty easy, right? So the most common mistake that you can do with this juggle that I personally do is you hit them one way, but they go the other. So I'm gonna show you this right now, right? So I jump, he's onto the left, he's onto the right. Now this might look, I missed him again. This is a very common mistake. This might look really stupid, be like, yo, how are you missing him? He's like such a big target. But like just think about it like an actual match when you're juggling like really small targets like supports. This is very common too. And also another thing you need to understand is that when you play in certain maps, there's a lot of physical clutter, and you might be trying to avoid hitting into a wall or like hitting into like that object, and as a result you're not paying attention to who you're juggling into, and it's just a common mistake. So don't underestimate how hard this can get if you don't have enough practice. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to chain multiple juggles. Now there's 2 scenarios. One is if you're in like a long environment like so. Another is if you're in a short, more constricted environment. So if you're in a long environment, you can just do this. You can just keep going straight. However, if you're in a constricted environment, you have to like 180 them. Turn 180 and juggle like so. That's pretty much how you like chain juggles. One more thing I need to talk to you about when you chain juggles is make sure you immediately charge your jump as you hit the ground. So a good thing to do is like immediately hold spacebar after you perform your first jump, and it will start charging automatically. So that's pretty much how you chain juggles. So let me just show you like a common mistake I see with this is that you might try to like launch me Bhop as you perform the juggle. So 1, 2, and I wait at the end and then I jump them again. I did that a bit more exaggerated. It doesn't really represent like this actually happening in an actual match. However, when you juggle someone like on an up to an elevated surface, that is quite common where you hit a primary at the end and it just launches them away. So I'm gonna try to show you this again. Like again, this might look like really obvious of a mistake, right? But in all honesty, fam, like when you're in the zone of like juggling, you kind of forget like these minor things and you start making like that kind of small mistake at the end there. Just be aware when you do that. And this is also a very common mistake because I'm going to teach you his highest DPS juggle, and this is like one mistake that you do as well when you perform this. But before then, I'm going to teach you different juggle openers. So as I taught you before, the animation cancel in Monster Hulk. Now with the second juggle I taught you, you can pretty much do an animation cancel into the juggle, right? Primary animation cancel into the juggle, like so, as I'm showing you. You can do that right here. This is a really effective way to shorten the damage interval. As we know, sustain is very high in this game, especially in higher ranks. So you want to be dealing as much damage as you can in as short a time as possible. So performing the animation cancel can allow you to do. So make sure you always try to weave in an animation cancel with your clap and primary whenever you have the opportunity, so you can maximize DPS. Now, another juggle opening that you could be doing is, I've seen this in a Zotae clip, is you animation cancel into a primary. Now, I won't lie, I messed up there, and the reason why is it's quite hard to hit consistently. I hit it there again, but you just pretty much animation cancel, launch them up, jump, primary again, and that's how you start the juggle. I again would strongly discourage this because it is kind of hard to hit consistently. The only reason why I'm hitting consistently is, you know, it's because it's me. So yeah, another thing too is that you kind of have to be somewhat close to them and the timing is a bit weird to hit. So again, I would avoid this. Okay, here's Monster Hulk's highest DPS juggle. The name is self-explanatory. The best Hulk player last season, season 5.5 and 5, Monster performs this in his gameplay. And pretty much the click pattern is primary, jump, primary, primary, clap. And it does the most amount of damage. If I'm not wrong, this can also kill Monster Hulk. However, one thing you need to know is that you need to be on level ground. Like notice here in the practice range, we're on level ground. There's like no form of elevation whatsoever, right? If there is a form of elevation, I'm going to be honest to you, you're going to do a very common mistake that I'm going to show you, that I already showed earlier, but I'm going to show again. The most common mistake is you jump primary, and then you primary out of this way, but like your jump isn't charged at the time. You just push them away. It's a bit hard to show when I'm on level ground because, you know, I'm too good for that to happen to me. On elevated ground, you can like definitely like launch someone into the air. So just be aware, make sure you're on flat level ground when you perform this juggle. It's kind of hard to like think about it intuitively, but trust me, once you start doing this like in your matches, it's gonna be hard to perform. And I really recommend doing this if you're like super duper high elo, because again, you need to maximize DPS as much as you can, but it is quite hard to hit. And me personally, I avoid this because I want to maximize the amount of juggles I can do. So if I can do, and doing this combo doesn't really help with that. So I'm going to teach you how to juggle someone when they're pinned to a wall. Okay, how to juggle someone when you pin them to a wall. Now, I've hit a clip like this before, and I'm not going to lie, this is really, really helpful when you play in like small maps, or a map that has a lot of physical clutter. So notably so, Clintar maps and domination maps, they're quite small and they have a lot of visual clutter. The worst map I would honestly say for juggling on Hulk is the Clintar domination map because of how much physical clutter there is and how small it can be. So that map is easily my least favorite. That being said, here's how you can juggle on those maps. So there you go, that's me performing a wall juggle. Now, I want you to know one thing. The first juggle I performed was the second juggle I taught you. So juggle number 2, right? I used that juggle to transport them to the wall. I sound robotic as shit when I said that. I used that juggle so I could transport them to the wall. Once I hit the wall and they're pinned at the wall, I did the first juggle I taught you. And the reason why, and I'm going to be playing some clips of me showing you why. The reason why you should be doing this first juggle I tell you is because when you do the second juggle, there's not enough space, and two, it's really hard and inconsistent to hit it when someone's pinned to a wall. And a lot of times, if you do the first juggle, it's a lot more consistent to hit. And another thing I want to note is that you should always look down immediately when you want to hit your clap. A common mistake I see people do is that they just clap as if it's like a regular juggle, like clap in front of them, and they don't immediately look down to hit their clap. You need to know is that the second you do a wall juggle, they immediately fall down right into the ground. So if you don't look down as they're falling, you're not going to hit your clap. Okay, so I was hesitant to teach this because this kind of contradicts what I said earlier about how you should never be using his world breaker ability until the end of his ultimate. However, for this juggle, you need to be using it at the beginning of his ultimate. So this is the ultimate Diff juggle. Now, the reason why it's called it is because it's practically inescapable. This is gonna juggle pretty much everyone, and let's take examples such as Spider-Man, Hulk, or Jeff, where all three of them either have a form of CC immunity or have enough mobility to escape the juggle. However, with this juggle, they can't escape it. So practically how this juggle works is that you want to go into your ultimate, press Q immediately, and then do your juggles. And the reason why this is better in particular to the other juggles I taught is because if you were to start your juggle with an Exile and then perform it, there's still enough time for the Spider-Man to swing away, or the Jeff to swim away, or the Hulk to bubble away. So that's not what you want. You want to make sure you juggle them regardless of what ability that they have. So here it is. So notice this Groot, after I press Q on him, he CC'd for at least 2 seconds, and that gives me plenty of time to perform this juggle. And he's dead. Okay, so this pretty much concludes this Hulk mechanical guide. I did leave out quite a few things because I felt like it didn't fit the theme of this video, and it's not really that important, or it could have been used in like a future video. But that being said, it's pretty much everything that you need to know mechanically about this character. Of course, there's some more subtle minor things that I feel like you'll learn as you play the character that aren't as important or as notable to note into this tutorial. That being said, if there's one piece of advice I can give to you when you're learning how to juggle or just perform mechanics on this character is, you need to think about like the combos on this character like it's a geometry dash level. I know what you're thinking. You might be like, what? How are those two things related? When you play this game, there's like so many minute things that you need to pay attention to, whereas it's baiting out cooldowns, managing ults, tracking ults, or just like making small plays. There's like a lot of things going on in your mind, and a lot of times you might not be able to memorize exactly what you need to do to perform a juggle. However, if you were to memorize the click pattern on the juggle, it's going to be a lot easier for you to perform. And it's kind of like the same thing with a geometry dash level. If you just like memorize and learn the click pattern of a level instead of trying to read what you need to do in terms of gameplay, it'll become a lot easier. Like, I haven't played this game in like half a year. However, I'm still able to play Diligence, which is an extreme demon, pretty easily because I just memorized the click pattern. Similarly, if you want to be very good at this character, if you just memorize the click pattern compared to like memorizing the input, it'll be a lot easier. So just have a general intuitive feel for how a juggle is supposed to be. I won't lie to you, fam. The clips are gonna come to you on a silver platter. But that's pretty much the best advice I could give to you. With that in mind, have fun. Go get your clips. And also try to ruin someone's day and rage bait them. That's the best part about juggling someone.